Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Morning Devo with Beau. Hope you guys are doing great today. May 6th. I know because Cinco de Mayo was my friend Jason Jimenez's birthday. So welcome to the morning devotion. Happy birthday, Jason Jimenez. Jason, you could always look him up. He's an author, a speaker, and the founder of Stand Strong Ministries. So you could always check out one of my friends, Jason Jimenez. That's with a J, Jimenez. It's a very popular name out here, actually, but it might not be where you're at. But you could check out his work. It's super cool, very good stuff. And he's an apologist. He's one who really defends the faith, studies world religions, cult groups, and also, of course, the Word of God. So, very cool. And it is kind of a coffee day. And so I do have my decaf out and I'm ready to go. I'm going to only go through Genesis 12 today. It's really cool. I mean, we are honing in now on a particular group of people. We kind of are going through the line of Shem, of, the famous Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The offspring of the offspring of Noah. And now we get into, we saw these ancestries of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and we're kind of narrowing in on a particular person. His name's Abram. We saw that he also had a relative named Lot. And it's kind of neat how the Bible starts honing in to help us understand who is the revelation. It's really about the revelation of a child, the revelation of someone who would be born of a woman that would defeat the enemy. That's kind of the whole drive of the book of Genesis. And so it's exciting. I kind of talked a little bit about it yesterday, just those first, 11 chapters and how cool they really are. And all that is included in them makes sense to our world. So when we say, when I used to say, hey, the Bible makes no sense, it's because I never read it. But when you read it, you kind of go, whoa. You even see a lot of where philosophers, Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, different people like that, existentialism, Jean-Paul Sartre, Albert Camus, different people, it really, they get, you could see the biblical influence that has permeated the world. And it's because it really does make sense. Something is wrong with us as human beings. We need a great deliverer. We need a savior. We need a Messiah. And he's going to have to be a unique person because he's going to have to defeat an entity, a being that is quite unique called the devil. And so we get into 12 and we're kind of going to roll with it. But before I do, I wanted to show a New Testament of the Bible with a Christian man named Jacob Slavin on the cover. And so Jacob is one of the defensemen for the Carolina Hurricanes. And he is featured on the New Testament, kind of for hockey players, and so I found that super cool. I was talking to a person the other day at our fellowship that said, hey man, I'm really digging the Carolina Hurricanes. And I said, hey, there's a guy named Jacob Slavin on that team that is a very good defenseman. And he is a brother in the Lord. So very cool. And always good wishes to Jacob Slavin with the Carolina Hurricanes. They are doing really well, by the way. And they are playing the Philly Flyers, who I love as well. Love the Philly Flyers and love a particular, have great memories and of one of their coaches. And so if you don't know, one of the Philadelphia Flyer coaches was actually out here in Tucson coaching the our American Hockey League team here. So anyway, enough hockey chat, right? Let's get into Genesis 12. It says, the Lord said to Abram, leave your native country, your relatives, your father's family, and go to the land which I will show you. Okay, so the first thing that God says to Abram is to go. And I find this fascinating because I would imagine that if God, whether he's outside of time, matter, and space, or everywhere within time, matter, and space, or he's on the planet walking in a body, God would say the same things. So whatever God says, if he's in heaven or on the earth, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, that God is going to say the same things. And it's kind of neat. When the Messiah is on the scene, Jesus, he says, go into all the world and make disciples. You know, it's one thing to start a church like, just close to your house. Hey, I'm going to start a church. This is where I grew up, da-da-da-da-da. I'm going to just start a church, like kind of semi close to my house. It's not that difficult. You probably have friends already and you can go do it. But then there's starting a church where you've not been before. Going somewhere where you don't even know the lay of the land. And notice that God's call, whether he's in heaven or whether he's on earth or whether he's in spirit or whether he's in a body, the message is to his disciples, go to a land, go leave your native country. Don't you love that? Hey, you want to go start a church? Leave your native country. Leave your native city. Go do it. I don't know. I think I'll wait until everything's right and I got the crew and it's right down the street from my house and da-da-da-da. It all makes sense. This doesn't make any sense. Leave your native country, your relatives, your father's family, and go to a land I will show you. In order to be a pastor, I think a very well kind of rounded pastor, you need to be missionary. And what I mean by that is you need to go. See, it's one thing if I really think like you see this pattern, go into a place that's not your place, not that just, your town, but go out there and you're going to need to trust me. You're going to need to leave it all behind and you need to go. I remember my first pastor, Pastor David Guzik. He had his second church where I grew up out in Ventura County. And then, I already left, but he went to Germany, of all places. Germany. What? Why are you going out there, man? How are you going to provide? What's going to happen? But that's kind of a far trip. A lot of trusting the Lord. Get on a plane, take your family to Germany. Go. Leave your native country and your relatives. Again, I think it kind of helps you as a pastor to know that you in your life have gone, that you've left your native country, you left your native town, and you went someplace else. Now, for me and my wife, it was, I don't know, what would we say, 450 miles or something, 500 miles from my town. Well, I guess back in this day, it might be that might be really far. Far, obviously I can't rely on my friends. When I moved out here to be a part of a new work, I never even been to Tucson before. Never even saw Tucson. I didn't know what the place was like. I didn't know what the people were like. I didn't know how big, how small, what it was, blah, 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 blah. I didn't know any of that. We literally just went. Go. And, it's good to be a pastor and know what it's like to pick up and leave it all behind. Leave your occupation, your jobs, to leave all your friends, to leave any kind of security that you've ever had your entire life, and to pick up and go. That's I think a very cool quality that you see from Jesus, God on the planet, and God who speaks to Abram. Go. And it's really about relying on God. Am I really relying on God, or am I just building what makes sense? I got my friends, I got my people, I got this, I got that, I got this. I've already set things up. I already got this going on. I got this. I've already talked to people. I'm all set, ready to go, kind of thing. Or are you just going? I will make you into a great nation. Okay. So through Abram, we get a promise that through him will be a great nation. So he's going to be the father of many. And it says, I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others. Isn't that cool? That when God calls you and you go do it. By faith, you step out and you really, do something kind of crazy. You leave your native land. You leave that thing that seems so secure. And God will make you into something. He will do something. And he will make your name famous. And you will be a blessing to others. Isn't that cool? But I'm sure to Abram, it's not going to feel so good. It's funny. It's not like it's going to feel great because he's right there. He's in his comfort zone. He lives right down the road. All this stuff like that. He's got all of his friends. He's got all of his family. No, it's going to feel funky. But God says, I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to make your name great. And, it might be when you die, but I'm going to make your name great, dude. And it says, you will be a blessing to others, a great nation, famous, a blessing to others. Isn't that cool? I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who treat you with contempt. All the families of the earth will be blessed through you. So you can see that this curse and this blessing is really upon those and how they treat Abram, and obviously the nation that comes out of him. Those that are in his loins, so to speak. Are you going to bless those that are from Abram and the name of Abram, or are you going to curse the name of Abram and the people and the nation that comes out of Abram, and the people that are blessed by Abram? Where's your heart at in relation to this person? And it says all the families of the earth will be blessed. Wow, that must have sounded a little hard to believe, since Abram was just in a little tiny portion of the world, of the earth. And so Abram departed as the Lord had instructed, and Lot went with him. So Abram obeys. He goes and he does it, right? Boom, he's off. Has God called you to go? Has God called you? Where has he called you? Maybe it is just like a service unto the Lord to go, and meet serving in the church. Go do it. God has put it on your heart. Go serve in that area of ministry. But are you obeying? Are you going? And so it says, and he took Lot with him, and Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. And he took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all his wealth, his livestock, and all the people he had taken into his household at Haran, and headed for the land of Canaan. And when they arrived in Canaan, Abram traveled through the land as far as Shechem. There he set up camp beside the oak of Moreh, and at that time the area was inhabited by Canaanites. Okay, Canaan. Remember that name? From Ham, right? Canaan. And then you have the Canaanites. So again, these are brothers of Noah, or sons of Noah, but brothers, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And so we see through the line of Shem, we saw the line Abram. But through the line of Ham, we see the Canaan, the son Canaan, and the Canaanites. Okay, so we see that there's all relation here. What I do find fascinating too is, it's hard to trust God when you have kind of people with you. They might not like what Abram's doing. Why are you going? Why can't we just stay here? We got all of our comforts. Everything's all set. And that's a lot of pressure on Abram. I don't know if you've ever felt that kind of pressure before. I'm sure you have, where you've kind of felt like, wow, gosh, I have a lot of people relying on me. And the way God's calling me has an effect on everybody else. And that can weigh heavy on a heart. And I'm sure it weighed heavy on Abram as well. But Abram still went. He didn't cave under the pressure, under maybe the, hey, maybe people in his family were saying, hey, you shouldn't go. And he could have just said, hey, yeah, it's, maybe not the best idea. I don't know if I really heard from God. There's maybe a lot of ways he could have justified just staying in Haran. But instead, he chose to go. He obeyed, and he went. He said, no, I know this is of the Lord. This is unique. This is a unique moment where I continually am getting this word from God to go, and knowing where I'm going. I'm supposed to go to this land, and it's a continual thing, and he knows he's got to go. And so he ends up going, but man, I'm sure that was a lot of pressure on him. And sometimes our decisions in God are going to seem awkward to other people. It might not be something where, for instance, like if someone says, when I said, hey, I'm going to go to Tucson and, I might be a part of a new Calvary Chapel that starts. How about that? If everybody says to me, man, that's a great idea because it's all lined up. Man, you got this amount of money, this is going to happen. You're going to be okay. We're going to take care of you, this kind of thing. Everything's going to be great. People there, that's kind of easy, right? You got everybody, again, backing you. But if you get resistance, and people are like, I don't know, like, man, really? You really heard from God? You really going to go? You're really going to leave your occupation? You're really going to leave your friends? You're really going to leave where you're from, where you were born, where you were raised? Everything is here. You're going to leave all that. You're going to leave your church. You're going to leave your, things that are your security. And people start going, I don't know. Doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. It might be the exact right thing. And notice what God is doing in Abram. Am I really listening to God? Or are you just doing this are you just doing your thing, doing your new thing because you don't like the old thing? Or you want to do it your way? And you got a crew that'll help you do it your way? Or is it really a call from God? Is it really God saying, get up and go? And Abraham's so sure of that call. even though other people might not think it's so cool. He does it. Moses, we're going to see that Moses is going to have to obey God when God calls Moses. And Moses' wife, we're going to see, has some issues with that. Sometimes the conflicts can even be in our own household. Now it says, then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, I will give you this land to your descendants. Okay, so the Lord is going to give the descendants of Abram the land of Canaan. And it says, and Abraham built an altar there and dedicated it to the Lord who had appeared to him. So the Lord appears to him. We're not told how the Lord appears to Abraham, but we know the Lord does appear to him in some fashion that is without any doubt a appearance of the deity. Something very unique that is happening in his life. What's cool is how relevant this chapter is in our day. Many people debate whose land is the land of Israel. Some people call it Palestine. You can all the way go back to call it the land of Canaan. Whose land is it? And it's one of authority. What is the utmost authority on whose land is it? Is it up to human beings to dictate whose land that is? Or is there really a God who has given this land to a particular person and his descendants? And we will get the exact descendants detail by detail in the book. And so that's what people debate today all the time. Whether you're in college and you're an activist and you're debating this issue, or whether you are the, quote, fundamentalist Christian reading your Bible, everybody is appealing to an authority on this subject. Whose land is this? Well, if we take this, it's very clear that it's going to be the descendants of Abram, that it was the Canaanites, descendants of Ham, that lived in this area. And so it says that Abram built an altar, and this is where he had set up camp, right, by that tree. And so he builds the altar and there and dedicates it to the Lord who had appeared to him. And after that, Abram traveled south to set up camp in the hill country, with Bethel to the west and Ai to the east. These places will be mentioned again in our Bible. The cool thing is you can pull out a map and look at where Bethel is and where Ai is as well. There he built another altar and dedicated it to the Lord. Now we start seeing this altar thing where there is this construction of something that the offering is placed on. I find this interesting. An altar, instead of just digging a pit, there's this construction that raises the sacrifice. Isn't that interesting? There's a construction, an altar that's built that raises the sacrifice. I find that kind of unique, an interesting way. There was people that built a tower and they built it trying to get to God, trying to be like God, right? The Tower of Babel. But when we see Abraham's story, we see an altar being built, but it's built to offer a dedication, some kind of offering to the Lord. So it's not about him being exalted and lifted up, but it's about lifting up God ultimately, about honoring God, understanding that I need to come to God by an offering that needs to be seen by you. It needs to be lifted up off of the earth. It needs to come from the earth, but it needs to get to heaven. It needs to be seen by God. It is elevated. It's an interesting study on the sacrifices and the offerings and the smoke that is raised up and goes up, and the altar that is raised up, and the ministry of Jesus, and that he is crucified on a cross raised up. Whoa. Interesting. What is it? Expanded or extended? That's it. Extended the ladder in between the earth, the bridge between the earth and heaven, the altar, exalting the sacrifice, raising it up. Jesus extended off of the earth, in between heaven and earth. That's kind of a cool picture. And then it says, then he built another altar and dedicated it to the Lord and worshiped the Lord, and Abram continued traveling south by stages towards the Negev. And at that time there was a severe famine that struck the land of Canaan, forcing Abram to go down to Egypt. Okay. There he lived as a foreigner in Egypt. And as he was approaching the border of Egypt, Abram said to his wife Sarai, "Look, you are a very beautiful woman." This is cool too. First mention of beautiful women in the Bible is very early on. Genesis chapter 12. Very cool. Do we have beautiful women, beautiful people today? Yeah. Well, the Bible is not a fairy tale. It's not saying something that's different. It's saying something that obviously has been around forever. That there's people that are beautiful. That there's something called beauty. And that beauty maybe perhaps is not just in the eye of the beholder, but that there's objective beauty. Beauty that is objectively beautiful. Something is attractive. You might have thought attractiveness is evil or beauty is evil. Rethink that one. Notice that Sarai is beautiful. And when the Egyptians see you, they will say, "This is his wife. Let's kill him that we can have her." So just like in Genesis 6, where there was an issue of people taking wives, not a good idea, taking something, taking. Here they say, oh man, Egypt, what if the leaders of Egypt, the government says, man, who is this guy Abram? But boy, he's got a beautiful wife. Let's kill him and let's get her, kind of idea. That still goes on today, right? In people's hearts. That kind of envy. I want what is yours. I covet my neighbor's wife. Is that something that is in our life today? Was it in my life even as an atheist? Yeah. I saw that all the time, coveting someone else's spouse, car, thing, that kind of thing. You see this kind of covetousness in the human heart. But I also find it fascinating that to the Egyptians, they see Sarai. They are going to see Sarai. Abraham's thinking about this. But he's saying they're going to see her as beautiful because she's objectively beautiful and attractive. They're going to look at her and be like, wow, she is dynamite. And they're going to be attracted. Now, attraction can move you into lustful behavior. And is that what I'm going to do today? Is attraction going to lead me in lustful behavior? Or can I see something that's attractive and just let it be attractive? Meaning, yeah, it's attractive. You can't say it's not attractive. Sarah's objectively beautiful. To say, no, she's not beautiful. No, she's not beautiful. That's lying. You are lying about something that is true. That's not good. The better thing is to say, she's beautiful. She's a very attractive person. But I don't need to take it to a lustful, evil place. We can just let people be people. There are going to be objectively beautiful people on the planet. And I can make up in my mind that it doesn't mean that I need to take them. It doesn't mean I need to have them. It doesn't mean I wish the worst on whoever's with them so that I can have this person. I don't need to go there. I can use self-control. I can use self-control. Now, it says, when the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife. Let's kill him and take her. So please tell them you are my sister. Then they will spare my life and treat me well because of their interest in you. So he knows they're going to be interested in her. They're going to be fascinated with her. And that's how it is on this planet too. Sometimes when someone's pretty and beautiful and attractive, that people tend to flock in that direction. Who knows what everybody's motive is, right? But people tend to go in that direction. Now, it's unfortunate that sometimes when there's someone beautiful, that we can tend to also want to preserve our relationship with them so much that we can lie. And this is what Abram does. He doesn't want to be killed. He's fearful of being killed. He knows she's beautiful, and they're going to probably want to be with her. And so what does he do? He makes up a lie and says, hey, why don't you say I'm your brother? And so they don't just come after me and kill me. I guess they could have killed him too because of that, he was the brother. They could have just offed him off anyway, just because he was in the way. But in that day, in that culture, he thought it was a better route to take, a safer route to take. But sometimes those safer routes are not the right route. See, sometimes we can try to preserve a relationship, right? We do this a lot when we're young. We're dating someone, you're a kid and you're kind of hanging out with someone. And I dated people since I was in, 5th grade, 6th grade. But anyway, that's another story. And I'm not saying you should at that age, but where I was from, that was kind of the deal. But sometimes you can want to preserve that relationship so much that you're fearful. And so you lie about all kinds of things to try to preserve and try to keep that relationship going. When really, if you were to just be honest, yeah, you're being honest and you're going to have to trust God. But a lot of us don't have God. And so we're trying to preserve something, this relationship that's in our life. And we're going to do it at all cost, even if it means lying. And that happens many, many times in many relationships where people lie about one another. Not so much like this as brother, sister, that kind of thing, but they lie about other things. Because they're trying to preserve the relationship. Instead of being honest about something in the relationship, they lie about it. They're not really honest about it because they want to preserve the relationship. So you see this human condition. These human conditions really make sense to us. They are a lot like us. And it says, and sure enough, when Abram arrived in Egypt, everyone noticed Sarai's beauty. Then the palace officials saw her. They sang her praises to Pharaoh, their king, and Sarai was taken into his palace. Now, I don't think they sang as in like, hey, let's sing a song about Sarai, but they sang the praises, meaning this girl is beautiful. Man, this is a model. This is a good looking chick, kind of idea. And it says, then Pharaoh gave Abram many gifts because of her, because Sarai was taken into his palace. So Abram, as, quote, the brother, gets all these gifts. Hey, it's working out pretty good. sheep, goats, cattle, male and female donkeys, male and female servants, and camels. But the Lord sent terrible plagues upon Pharaoh and his household because of Sarai, Abram's wife. Abram probably thought, victory. Hey, it's a little lie. Not a big deal. But, and he's getting all this good stuff, right? He's getting all these things from it. Man, this really was wise. Man, he's probably thinking, boy, am I smart. Boy, am I really jamming. God, I'm so wise. But, sometimes our wisdom, human wisdom, is not as wise as we think we are. That, you might have gained from your worldly wisdom, your lying, but God sees. How many businesses lie and gain? How many businesses gain money through lying, through deception, through not very good business ethics? And yet it's all justified. Hey, we're doing great on our bottom line. Do I do that? Do I justify and rationalize my position through lying and deceit, half-truths? You could see that we are a lot alike, aren't we, with these characters? But the Lord sent a terrible plague upon Pharaoh and his household because of Sarai, Abraham's wife. So Pharaoh summoned Abram and accused him sharply. "What have you done to me?" he demanded. "Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she is my sister and allow me to take her as my wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and get out of here." Pharaoh ordered some of his men to escort them, and he sent Abram out of the country along with his wife and all his possessions. Wow. I would like to think that that this whole situation spared Sarai a night with Pharaoh. I don't know. It doesn't say, but I'm kind of in that hope, that Sarai didn't have to sleep with Pharaoh and be with this man. That before any consummation of marital bliss or marriage, this took place. Pharaoh obviously is super upset. He is given an insight, obviously a word of knowledge, that she is not the sister, but she is the wife. And he is upset and realizes that the plagues that were upon his household and upon him had to do with him taking Sarai as a wife. And so he is absolutely wanting to stop this plague, and he knows he needs to give up Sarai and give her back to the rightful husband, Abram. Man, this is amazing. I'm glad this Pharaoh does the right thing. That when something comes to his mind, when he realizes that there is a ramification of what he's doing, that he kind of wakens up and he does the right thing. I hope I have that quality, that when I see the plague of my actions, that I wake up and I go, man, I need to do the right thing. Can I be like Pharaoh and just go, man, hey, that's what I did was wrong. Yeah, I justified it. I rationalized it. I explained it away. But it was wrong, and I'm going to get it right. I'm going to get it right. And Pharaoh does that, and man, I find a great quality there. Abram is not the guy. He doesn't come to Pharaoh. This God comes to Abram's rescue to what? Deliver his wife from this relationship. Delivering a woman from being exploited, being used, being mistreated, all that. Putting her in a tough situation. God comes to her rescue. And he delivers Sarai from that. Man, it's really sad because we see that Abraham just doesn't do the right thing as a husband. And how many of us husbands don't do the right thing when it comes to our spouse? We haven't done the right thing. Instead, we've put her in harm's way. Put her in a vulnerable situation. Have you ever put anybody in a vulnerable situation? People that you care about, that we say we love, but we still put them in vulnerable situations. Boy, can we see the human condition and the human issues in this man? Man, I find Pharaoh being, again, kind of a righteous dude to just go, man, I got to end this plague. I got to get right. I got to make this right. And so it says, Pharaoh ordered some of his men to escort them and sent Abram out of the country along with his wife and all his possessions. Man, he's got all these possessions now, and he's got more than enough, right? And Pharaoh says, you know what? I'm going to escort you. I'm going to make sure you guys are far away down the road. Wow. It's interesting. Abram was so scared about dying. He was so scared about dying and losing everything and losing his wife and losing his stuff and losing everything that he lied. And it's interesting. When God remedied the situation, he left with everything. Grace upon grace. Mercy upon mercy. His mercies are new every morning. Great is his faithfulness. So much mercy on Abram, right? He leaves with more. He leaves with all of his stuff, plus other stuff that Egypt gave him, the Pharaoh gave him. Unbelievable, right? Sometimes we even do the wrong thing. Man, we don't obey exactly like we should, and we get ourselves in some rough spots. And yet God is such a God of mercy and grace that he continues to pour out an abundance on us. Abundance of riches which are in the Messiah. Sounds so much like Jesus, right? We have this incredible storehouse of riches in Jesus. And it keeps just coming at you and pouring into your life. Riches upon riches, grace upon grace, mercy upon mercy. Right? What we have, your riches, isn't from you. You kind of figure that out. That even though you are a mess in many ways, despite you, God has been gracious to you and to me. And we see this pattern all the way back in Genesis chapter 12. Grace upon grace, even in the midst of faithlessness. And there's that incredible New Testament passage in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 13. If we are faithless, he remains faithful, for he cannot deny himself. Even though Abraham remains faithless, or is faithless in this encounter, God remains faithful. Powerful. Okay, you guys have a great day. Thanks for joining me. Genesis 12 in the books. Bye-bye.